The average solo GP is dead. Being handcuffed to a practice that only makes money while you're drilling crushes your freedom. Being trapped at the office is no way to experience life. And doing more fillings and crowns ain't the answer to freedom. Stop it. Freedom comes when your practice makes money without you. Freedom is choosing how many days and how you dental. Ready to forge your freedom? Then keep listening to become a super GP and super CEO. This is the Titanium Practice Podcast with your host, Dr. Stephen Freeman. Let's go.
Hello, all you beautiful people out there, and welcome to what's sure to be the best episode of the Titanium Practice Podcast yet. I'm your host and personal freedom coach, Dr. Stephen Freeman. How y'all doing today? Hope you had an amazing Mother's Day and spoiled your mom rotten. And if your wives are moms, then make sure you spoiled them rotten as well, because they deserve it for putting up with you, okay? So first things first, before we get going, actually, I've got a really cool thing here that I just got delivered recently to me, was the fact that if you are interested in getting into the 3D printing game, I mean, this is the opportunity of a lifetime, in my opinion. As I kind of mentioned, they came out with some new printers at SprintRay, including what's called their Pro 2. You can print the world on these things. It's the most accurate printer out there. It's fast. You can do, I can't remember, I think it's like 10 plus crowns in like 12 minutes, and they're all ridiculously accurate. And this is just for the printer, but I actually have a link for their Pro 2 printer that you can get right now for $5,000. And that's until June 30th, 2024. So if you email me at info@titaniumpractice.com, so that's info@titaniumpractice.com, I can get you that link. They are going to be suggested retail price, the last time I heard, was $12,000. Okay, so that's, yes, $7,000 off. So if you email me, I can get you that link. I get nothing for it. I get no kickback from SprintRay. I get nothing from anybody. It is just my way of saying, hey, I've got this information. It's available to you. Now, there are other components that go along with it. So there's what's called the washer that you need to get, and then also the actual curing unit that goes with it. But I mean, you're saving $7,000. I believe, actually, honestly, your whole investment then should be somewhere around $12,000 to get you then in the printing game. It might actually be less than that. I don't remember how much exactly I paid for the curing unit and the washing unit, but they're fairly inexpensive. So it might actually be less than that. So you might actually be more like total like $8,000 out the door to get in the 3D printing game. And it's so revolutionary. And this is not the point of the podcast, by the way. I'll get to that in just a little bit. When I got that just yesterday, I got that link. I wanted to make sure that I got it out to you guys. But if you really think you're getting into the 3D printing game, which you should be, I mean, honestly, you're making a foolish mistake if you don't do it. And that doesn't mean you need to do it all overnight. It doesn't mean you need to start printing everything that you do in your office overnight. But it is clearly the future. The future is now. You should have it in your office. And the stuff you can do with it, I mean, just absolutely mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing, transformative to your practice. So this will probably your cheapest way to get into the printing game, and it's an amazing printer, okay? I don't think they start shipping until a little bit later this year, so it's kind of a hurry up and wait situation, but at least you get in, you get an amazing price on the printer. But just email me at info@titaniumpractice.com if you want to get that link. But again, I get nothing out of it, not one red cent, not one red whatever. It's just purely to get it to you guys. So please email me if you want that. All right. So on today's episode, let's get rolling. And I'm going to talk generally about Stephen Covey's famous 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, because I'm sure a lot to almost all of you who have read the book. I'm sure you've heard of the book before, but almost all of you have also probably read the book. And I think it's important to kind of go back and highlight not necessarily all 7 things that people do that are effective, but that really, if you take these things to heart and you do it, it will make you a better leader. It will make a better dental office for you. It'll make your family better. I mean, it is just all around things that we need to go back and remember how important these things are to you being, yes, you are the leader of your dental office. You are the leader of your business. You're the leader of your family. You need to have these things in place so that you can have the best practice, the best family, the best you. And so the first one that I was going to, this is actually not even his order, but it's one that I stress to you all the time in talking about how I think about things and where I come from. And it's really the basis. It's literally why I'm talking to you right now. And it's the idea of thinking win-win. How many win-win scenarios can you rack up in your life? There's a great saying out there, and I'm probably going to butcher it, so I hope I remember it here, that I think it was Zig Ziglar who said, and I probably messed that up too, who said along the lines of, you will get anything that you want in life if you help enough people get what they want in life. And if you think about that, it is such a powerful statement, because if you are creating scenarios where you are helping other people get what they need, and you do that enough times, you're going to get something back too. And your reward is going to be bigger than whatever they got. And so whenever you go into any situation, you need to be focusing on what is it that they're going to get. Making sure that obviously you're not getting screwed in the deal, but what is it that they're going to get? And so when you create like a bonus program in your office, that's a win-win. All right? The employee does extra work or meets a certain goal, and they get more money. And honestly, it's so funny, and I've done this enough times now, that there's all this research that says that, employees don't focus on just the money. It's more about relationships. And it's absolutely, there are absolutely people who are like that. Absolutely. In fact, it's funny to think about when I have so many people at the office now, and since we keep always growing, we have some people who've been with us for a very long time now, for a decade plus. And then we have people who have been with us for a very short amount of time. And it's the people who have been with us for the very short amount of time who ask for the raises the most. And it's always so interesting to me, because you need to create that relationship. And that kind of goes back to that culture that we talk about, and the things you do that place value above money. And those new people have not had those experiences with us, or as many of those experiences with us. And this isn't going to go down the rabbit hole of talking about culture and everything like that, but it does talk about the fact of when you go into a situation, you need to create as many win-wins as you possibly can. So I got this podcast, and we get information out to you, and you learn from that information. Okay? So, and I get to hear myself talk, which to me in and of itself is just a great win all by itself. So primarily thinking about how you can create as many win-wins for you and for other people as possible is a tremendous way to all of a sudden see your life improve. And the more you're in service of other people, the more you will actually see a dramatic increase in the quality of your life, in the quality of your relationships you have with your family members, your friends, and the people in your practice, and your patients, your staff, all of it. And it's tough because we all get so caught up and focused on I need to take care of myself, because it is important. But at the same time, the more you can be thinking about how you can be in service to others, you will be amazed how quickly not just your bank account improves, but your overall life improves as well. Okay? So create as many win-wins as you possibly can. and so that you can kind of foster, these relationships and cooperations with other people, because the more mutually beneficial relationships you have in your life, the better off you're going to be. It's just that simple. Okay? So other things, he talks about being proactive, and it's very difficult. I will procrastinate on anything. I love procrastination. I'm amazing at procrastination. I don't mind doing the work, but I hate getting up to go and do the work. And it's just, I'm just being truthful with y'all. I mean, it is tough to do the thing, but once I'm up doing the thing, then I can do it all day long. And that's fine. I'm a big fan of, I kind of say, when I do activities, I can sit on the couch all day long and watch, especially college football, or I can go jump out of an airplane. Like, let's I can either sit or go and do something. And so it takes me a long time to get up and go and do stuff. But primarily about being proactive is about thinking about things that can occur, having a plan in place. What are you going to do if one of your hygienists leaves? What are you going to do if your right-hand front office lady leaves? You have to be proactive in thinking about contingencies. And it doesn't mean you need to worry about them, but you have to have a plan in place. Have a hiring plan in place. Okay, what are you going to do? Do you have an account with Indeed? Is that set up and ready to go? Do you do social events where you invite other practices into your office to, it's like when we do dentistry from the heart, or a giving to the community event where we open up the doors to our office, we have other offices come in and help us. And we create relationships with other people and other practices. And I'm not necessarily talking about stealing people from other offices. I'm just talking about the fact of like, hey, we need some help. Unfortunately, Betty left the office and we need to hire someone to replace her. Do you know of anybody who would be interested in a new position? Oh yeah, I'm, and they're all on Facebook groups. And you're probably on Facebook groups too, but they're all on these, like the dental hygienist Facebook group, the local one. And they all talk. I mean, and if you don't know that these things exist, well, there you go. There's a great little titanium nugget for you right there of just the fact of, hey, those exist. Get your hygienist on there and get them involved in being active. And it acts as basically a recruiting tool. So what can you do to automate more things in your practice so that you're not so reliant on that right-hand front office lady? What are some things you can do to make it so that they're not crippling to you if they leave? That the whole world won't come crashing down. I had an employee that I thought the world would end, in fact, and this was when I was younger, but I did think that the office would cease to exist if I didn't have her in the office. Guess what? That was 10 years ago. We still have an office. The office is better than it's ever been. And I loved her. She was great. She was fantastic, and I'd hire her back in a second. She moved 2 hours away. In fact, she was driving 2 hours away for a long time. She still worked here, driving 2 hours. It was amazing. But eventually it got too much, and she left. And I was always so scared that what would happen once she left the office. And again, I'd hire her back in an instant if she moved back to the area. But the world kept on spinning. But I wasn't very good at being proactive to have safeguards in place if the eventuality occurred. How stupid am I? Like, she moved 2 hours away. Of course, eventually she's going to quit. I can't believe she kept working. That's insane. She had a brand new kid too. So how am I not proactive enough to think about how to start taking things off her plate and literally start transitioning her out of the office? I mean, I was an idiot, but I learned from it. And so now we're more proactive, and we've always got baits on hooks out there for the possibility of if people leave the office or if we need to hire someone new. I mean, I just told you about 3D printing. Are you going to have someone in, if you get big enough into 3D printing, are you going to do it? Is somebody in your office going to do it? Is someone in your office capable of doing it? Or do you need to go out and hire someone new? so that it can just be, you're creating a lab now in your office because you can print everything. And again, this whole discussion is about 3D printing, but the point is like you can have a lab in your office. How great would it be if you got another dental assistant who was fully dedicated to like your technology specialist, and they went around and they scanned everybody and they made everybody's restorations, then your night guards and all of that stuff. I mean, how cool would that be? But you need to be proactive in thinking about that and getting that set up and integrated into your office. So being proactive, thinking about these things, having contingencies in place, because these people are going to leave. They're going to leave at some point in time. And again, don't lay up at night, worrying about whether or not they're going to leave, but thinking about it. Thinking about what needs to be done to make it so that you are not solely dependent on that person staying at your office. Like, do you have an office manual? A SOP, standard operating procedures, for your office that anybody can go to? Like, there's a great thing there right now for you to be proactive. Here's what you're going to do for that person. Have them download from their brain onto a computer screen or a piece of paper everything that they do. Every little thing that they do. Okay? There's a great exercise for you. Have them download everything that they do onto a piece of paper or onto a computer screen so that you at least have an outline of what it is that they do. Because I guarantee you they're doing things for your practice that you don't even know that they're doing. I guarantee it. If they're that pivotal to your practice, they're doing things you don't even realize need to be done. There were stupid little things that I need to learn, like fire extinguishers. Who checks your fire extinguishers to make sure that they're up to date? Anybody? Somebody? Nobody? Do you have fire extinguishers in your office? You should. But who checks that? No one thinks about that. Who thinks about fire extinguishers? Well, that lady at your front desk does, but nobody else does. And if she leaves, nobody else is going to think about it. And if the fire marshal walks in and cites you, or God forbid you have a fire in your office and it doesn't work, really would have been nice to remember to do that. But someone needs to be assigned to it. And if she's been there forever and she leaves, no one's going to do it. Because there's 10 million. I remember when I went to open my first practice, and I was fine with it. I think the full loan was going to be like 1.5 million for the build out, the equipment, and everything like that. And I had just gotten out of school, and these numbers are from like 20 years ago at this point, and that was fine. I didn't care about owing $1.5 million, but for whatever reason, when I realized, and we picked out you have to pick out the matrix bands to, which chair you want, what curing light do you want there's 11 million choices you need to be making to open a dental office. For some reason, I was walking through the aisles of Costco and I realized I need a mop. Someone's going to need to clean the floors. At that moment, it seemed overwhelming to me because there's just so many little things required to make a dental office go. And I'll bet that right-hand person does all those things for you. So you need to have her write all those things down and make sure that we keep that information and have it so that someone's still doing it if they leave. But that's being proactive, being prepared in the eventuality that person does depart your practice. Okay? Another one, put first things first. So I've talked to you, I had an entire podcast episode about rocks. This is that concept, rocks. So I won't spend too much time on this one, and you can go back and listen to that one if you haven't heard it yet. But it's the idea of putting the most important things. You need to be doing the most important things first. What are those things? Okay, yes, right now you are stuck to the chair and you can't really be thinking about growing the dental practice, but you need to be the one that's thinking about how to grow the practice. Nobody else is. Your assistant has no thoughts and every once in a while they might come up with an idea to improve efficiencies and things like that, or an idea, but you're the one that needs to be doing the big things. Your assistant's not going to come to you and say, let's do 3D printing. This will transform the office. It'll be great. We can print all of our night guards in office. We can do all the restorations in office. They're not going to come to you and tell you that. Hey, let's start placing implants. The only one I hear about procedures is Botox. They all come to me about Botox. And I tried to get into the Botox game, and I didn't know how to make it profitable with associates. And I'm not going into the office to do it. So all of them want you to do Botox. But other than that, they're not going to come to you with some grand idea to transform the office. That's your job. You need to be doing the things that are big in picture and scope. And you need to not worry about answering the phone or writing a check or any other, remembering the fact that the fire extinguishers need to be renewed. That's somebody else's job, and that's why they write it down on a piece of paper as part of their job. All right? See how that whole thing comes back full circle? You need to be focusing on taking care of yourself. Now, yes, I know I started the whole program talking about the win-win situation, but I'm talking about health-wise. Are you getting up in the morning and going and exercising? You have to. You don't have a choice. You have to. It's the number one thing out of everything. It doesn't matter about food, drinking, smoking, any of that crap. The number one thing you can do to improve your life expectancy and health is to exercise. And I'm not going to walk down that path right now. You can go listen to, the Beautiful Morning episode if you want to hear more about that. But my point is that you need to be focusing on the big things, and you are a pretty big thing. You are a huge thing. So you need to make sure that you're putting your health first. But you need to be thinking about the big things in the office. You don't need to be doing the small piddly crap that other people can be doing. Okay? So that's that delegation thing. You have to be okay with delegating. You have to. You don't have a choice. Are they going to do it as well? Almost assuredly not. There are some tasks they will actually do better than you, but the vast majority of tasks they will not do as well as you could do. You need to live with that fact. That's okay. Somebody else doing 80% as well as you, but being able to give all that crap away, that frees you up. That frees you up so you can be focusing on the big things that need to be done with the practice. And you just need to live with the 20% not as good as you. I mean, it's just, you have to. You don't have a choice. But it's freeing at the same time. You should want that. But it is tough when you look at something like, well, that's not how I would have done it. I say that all the time in my head, but that's okay. I've lived with it. I've moved on, and off I go. And I have all the free time that I can possibly want. You can't have much more free time than I've got. But I have to live with the fact that nobody does it the way that I would do it, and they don't do it as well as I think I could do it. And it doesn't mean I'm perfect. It just means in my head, I know how I want it done. And they can't walk around in your head and know what you're thinking, so they're not going to do it the same way that you would. Okay? So do be thinking about how you need to be putting, first things first, the most important things that really align with the long-term vision and goal that you do have for your practice. And have you done that? Speaking of first things first, have you done that? Have you written down what you want? What do you want? That's why it's kind of like, I talk about this, and talk about getting freedom. I try to get you out of the chair, but what's next? What do you want to do next? And I'm an open book for that, because not everybody wants what I want. Some people just want to keep doing dentistry, but they want to just be able to make their same income or a hell of a lot more, but on fewer days, so that they can be out playing. Because I remember when I used to work 2 or 3 days a week, that was great. How fun was that? And I lived at the beach. Holy crap, you're talking about living the life. I'd go in, I'd place some implants for a couple of days, and I'd go home and I'd go to the beach. There's only so long that's fun, though. Honestly. And I did eventually get bored with it, and I said, well, let's go do a new challenge. Let's go build this big ass office. But like I've talked about it before, we had the couch. I had 3 employees. I'll have 3 employees, I've got 3 employees that sit up at one part of the checkout desk now. We have a checkout desk, we have a check-in desk, we've got an insurance desk, we've got, it was a much, much more simplified life at that point in time. It was very, very different. But think about it. What do you want? What do you want it to be? Do you want to grow a bunch of practices? Do you want to have a bunch of practices? You need to think about that. But that's what's important. Not all the other piddly crap that I talked about. Not you mowing the lawn. Not you going and getting your dry cleaning done. You need to be focusing on the big things. Okay? So those are kind of my big takeaways those were the three big ones. And you're certainly welcome to look at, there's other things that he talks about. He talks about synergizing with other people and helping, again, but I feel like that goes back to, the win-wins. Building relationships with your team to make sure that you can achieve what it is that you're trying to do and create a great culture so those people are in the weeds with you and doing the work and getting things done. I do think a big one, though, that I kind of left out, though, is I like the idea of beginning with the end in mind. There's so many stories in sports, and I'm pretty sure it was Mary Lou Retton that had, she visualized doing the perfect vault to win and beat the Russian back in, I don't know, like 1982, I think. So some of you weren't even alive yet. But she visualized doing the perfect vault, went out and did the perfect vault, and she did it. And there's story after story after story of athletes, of other people who have said, I'm going to envision what the end looks like so that it's more achievable. But that goes back to your goals. It goes back to making your priorities first, of thinking about, you have to know what that is first before you can ever even begin to imagine what it is. So, begin with the end in mind. All right. And kind of lastly was sharpen the saw, which basically means continually improving yourself. You're listening to this. Congratulations. You're improving yourself. I'm glad I could be helpful in sharpening your saw today. But seeking out information, seeking out ways to improve your practice, exercising, to go back to that again, not to beat a dead horse, but to say you need to be maintaining and taking care of yourself. And I drink alcohol. I love having beer. Beer is great. Beer is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy. Okay? So it's not like I'm telling you to my body's my temple and that's all you can do. All right? And you need to just figure out how to make it the most perfect temple you possibly can. That's not what I'm saying. But there's a lot of the time that we're not doing the exercise. Most people do not exercise. They don't. And they study after study shows the best way you can make yourself healthy, and live longer is to exercise. And I get kind of addicted to it. I can't not go, and I feel like I have to go and do it now. And I do it because I want to be healthy, but I also do it because I want to make sure I keep watching my old people in my life, all these people over 70 in my life who have a hard time walking. My mom uses a walker now, and she's 70, about coming up on 75. I sure as hell don't want to be using a walker when I'm 75. But she's never done anything physical activity-wise. And she does nothing now. She doesn't try to get better now. And I know it's probably late in the game. And I love my mom. I love my mom very much. But at the same time, it's the truth. I don't want to be in a walker by the time I'm 75. I even asked her recently, I said, we're going to Europe in a couple weeks here. And I asked her, I was like, so when do you think, how long ago was it that you think you could have actually gone to Europe? She always wanted to go to Europe and never went. And she said 10 years ago, she said, I think about a decade ago, she probably was still physically able to go and actually walk around the amount of walking that's going to be necessary to go to Europe. And I actually think it was a little bit earlier than that, but think about how sad that is. She always wanted to go to Europe, and now she's physically past that point of being able to do it. Financially, she can do it. She's really freaking scared of airplanes, so that's part of the reason why she never really got over there to go and do it. But at the same time, that's it. She can't. That's it. And she may live another 10, 15, 20 years, but she will never get to go to Europe because she's not physically able to do it. So do the things now so that you can be doing those things, especially when you have the free time. Because building a practice that doesn't need you doesn't happen overnight. It takes some time to do, but you're doing the things right now. But then you'll have that free time, and you want to make sure that you're able to maximize that free time so that you're physically able to move and go and do those things. So sorry to go down that rabbit hole, but I just wanted to kind of stress it mainly because I was spending a lot of time with my mom this weekend because it was Mother's Day. So it just kind of, struck me because obviously we were talking about the upcoming trip and whatever. So anyways, so those are kind of my thoughts today. It is a great book. I do think that kind of summarizes basically the book in a nutshell though. So if you haven't read it, that should give you a really good summary of what is in the book. But hit on those things. I mean, put your big things first. Put your rocks. Do your rocks. All right? Stephen Covey talks about that thing. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go listen to the rocks episodes. Think about creating as many win-win moments in your life you possibly can. It can be with your kids. It can be with your coworkers. It doesn't matter, but create as many win-wins as you possibly can, and be proactive. Be very proactive and think about eventualities that are going to occur at your office so that you're ready. I'm almost thinking of it as always kind of this idea of being in an athletic stance of like you're not standing flat-footed, you're ready to take action. And again, you're not scared about these things, you're just ready to act upon it when it does happen because you've already thought through the process and you're thinking through it. And that's not the only place you can be proactive, but I think that's a big one. I think especially with a lot of you having really small teams, like I said, if I'd been doing this, 15 years ago, I would have had a team of 3, me and 3 people. So if one leaves, 33% of the team left. That's a huge freaking deal. It's a huge freaking deal. So most of you are probably in a similar situation, maybe a little bit larger. I'm going to guess probably around 5, about 5 employees. Okay? So if someone leaves, it's a big deal. But be prepared for it, think through it, think about things that are going to occur in the practice so that you can make sure that things keep running smoothly for when those things eventually occur. All right? So again, hope you had a great Mother's Day. Please email me, info@titaniumpractice.com if you want to get into that printing game. Again, it is a gigantic savings on the printer. It's an amazing printer, and it should be an amazing printer. I have the model right, that it's replacing the Pro S, and this is going to be the Pro 2. So the Sprint Ray Pro 2 is the one that I'm talking about. I didn't mention which printer it was. Sorry. But please email me if you'd like that, info@titaniumpractice.com. It will change your practice. I promise you. Until next time, folks, I appreciate listening. All right. Have a great day. Bye.
You've been listening to the Titanium Practice Podcast with your host, Dr. Stephen Freeman. Please hit the like and subscribe button and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Titanium Practice. Questions or comments? Send an email to info@titaniumpractice.com. Join us next time to help turn your average practice into a titanium practice.